Good morning. I had I guess you would call it a culmination of some effort this weekend. So I might be a little... anyone who's been with me for a while knows that I've been on this kind of privacy kick for a bit. And when I realized it was beyond, like, hey, maybe you should buy our product, and more into, like, actual inception, I was like, hey, this is not a good thing at all. So I tried to figure out how I could escape some of that, or how I could at least maintain some of my own thoughts. And that led to a separate device, a non-internet connected standalone device that is still useful and quick to do data entry and customized to my to what I'm working with, or to my workflow, I guess. I guess that led a couple places. The first place was, I think, of course, I don't even care. The first place was this, which is a dedicated voice recorder thing. It has 500 hours or whatever of recording on it, and it has good enough pickup that I can just kind of hit the button and then start talking and then pause it and then move on. It also has this feature, I suppose. I don't know that it's a feature; it's just the way that it works. Where if I run the recording and I pause the recording, it blinks red because the recording is paused. So what I've taken to do is start the recording and then let it, and just pause it. I never stop the recording. Stopping it saves it. But if I leave it blinking red, I can put it wherever, and then I'll see that I still have messages on there that I need to review. So then I'll pick it up and stop it, and then actually, save the file and then review the file and get the data out of it. So it's technically, maybe it's not even written data at that point. I'm not sure, but the data is kind of like in the ether at that point. So that's been a good way to catch ideas quickly and have them blink at me for later review. The next is this Vexus device. And this is a combination of products. It was designed to do a few things, and it became this kind of PDA almost. So I couldn't really do much with it until the battery was extended. There's probably some battery life optimizations I can do, but for now it's a little bit heavier. It's got a 2500 milliamp hour battery, and I just stopped counting how long it would run on a full charge at I stopped counting at 18 hours, because I was just like, okay, that's enough. I might have like a reminder or something so that when it kicks off battery, that if I hit the 15-hour mark, it might blink to tell me to recharge it. But the point is, this is a place for me to enter data, set up timers, and it has if you noticed, I added a little buzzer on there so that it can buzz at me, and I decide how it buzzes. The whole thing is programmed in Arduino, so C++, so it's easy enough to be like, well, what if I wanted to do this, and what if I want to do a quick snooze function, and what if I want to ignore this alarm but pay attention to that alarm. And since it's running an ESP32, it's got like, I think it has 8 megs of memory. I think I might be wrong, but what I read said 8 megs, and 8,000 kilobytes is 8 megs. So, for some values of 1,000, for some values of a kilobyte, 1024, but it has a ton of memory, so I don't have to worry about that. Like, I can just shove stuff in there and be unoptimized but quick in my C coding, and it just works. It's fine. So I was talking to my wife. It became apparent that I required that I should purchase a new item. And this is exactly what I was talking about with the privacy thing. It's like, you're not being sold at, your interests are being sold. You know, if Troy really wants some cat food, I love that cat food. I really need to get some new cat food. I don't know, Fiskars, Whiskers, Fancy Feast, all that cat food. Just not sure which cat food to get. I hope I don't receive any coupons in my inbox about cat food. This new product that I wanted to purchase, I was like, okay, yeah, I guess we should look for that in the future. Look for that tomorrow. Check out the prices on it. So I entered it into to this thing. I was like, all right, this thing will remind me. And the next day, I was reminded of it, and we went there, and I got some prices and got an idea of what it was, and I put that data into here. And I got home, and I was like, wait a minute. Like, I just expressed interest in a product, and then looked it up, or yeah, like stored that information. And when I go to Amazon, I'm not being bombarded with, you know, cat food products. It's like, wow, that's kind of cool. That's actually what I wanted to do with this device. You know, my thoughts are my own in there, and no one's tracking it, which is pretty cool. So, the thing that I need to get is are these objects right here on my face. And I got these like 10 years ago, so it makes, you know, it's time, maybe, I guess, to get a new review of these objects so that I can get good these objects. But once I do that, like, I need, so I've realized that I did that, and I, like, the advertisers and Amazon and Google didn't know that I was interested in this thing. So I was like, okay, well, I actually want to search some of this stuff up. So what can I search it with? And I searched it with, let's see. I searched it with, I think I searched it with Firefox in, no, I don't think I used private mode in Firefox. I used normal Firefox, and I used Start Page and DuckDuckGo. And every once in a while I would stop and go to Amazon and see if my advertiser ID had been associated with a hot new customer looking for local purchases in your area. And nothing so far. So there was actually one website that allowed you to upload a short video of your face, and then it would, you know, machine learn the frames onto your face, and you could see what you look like technically with them. That is a kind of an interesting idea. I don't think it's an accurate representation at all, but whatever. Or accurate representation of the most important features, I think, which are the proportions. But the point being, like, I didn't have to log in for any of that. I didn't have to provide my email for any of that. So I'm like, all right, so let's see if it has facial recognition, if those servers turn on that for a while before figuring out that it's me, and then I get my advertiser ID updated that I'm interested in this product. So I'll find out. Nothing so far, I think. It's just a little refreshing, I guess, to know that the thoughts that wind up in here are my own. And the things, the interests that I have, that I store in there are my own. And that they're not being influenced by anything outside. Which was the purpose of the product, the purpose of the project. Which is pretty cool. I guess it just took a long time. Time is, I don't know, I guess time is a hacker's best friend, and I guess that's true in more ways than one. If you tinker, and if you make reminders, and if you force yourself, and if you work 10 minutes on a project, or think 15 minutes about a project, as long as you save your work, and by that I mean like update files with your thoughts, and any changes, maintain a good project documentation, I guess. you know, I feel out some of these projects and I'm like, maybe it should do this, maybe it should do that. And then like a week later, I'll be like, wait a minute, it can do this, but if it does that, then that's a bad thing. And I'll go back to that file, or, you know, that org file and org mode file, and be like, don't make it do this, but yes, do this. And it shouldn't do that because of this reason. And then, you know, I'll think about it later and be like, well, actually, you could probably do it this way, and change things around. As long as you're saving your work so that you don't have to repeat your thought process over and over again, that works pretty well. I use that a lot when I'm working on any kind of projects, development projects, like big development projects, because when you're working in something, your head is really wrapped up in it, and it's easy to be like, well, why don't I change this? Like, no, actually, that would break that, which means I need to update that, which means that's kind of a bad way of doing it. Okay, fine. Like, that'll be a harder change, but I can make that change later. But for now, I'll do a little workaround. And all of that gets recorded. Or at the very least, it becomes direct action for me to take. So I'll come back to my file and it'll be like, delete this, rewrite it so that it does this. And I'm like, okay. Sure thing, past Troy. if you insist. Dear Troy, dear future Troy, you must do this. The future depends on it. It's just kind of silly, I guess. Like leaving notes for myself. Please do this. I'll explain why later. Like, okay, me, sure. The point is, you don't. It's almost. Well, I guess it is. It is a form of prep time to wrap your head around a larger project that you haven't been in for a while. You know, you have to get your gears aligned so that you can think in the architecture of the project. And then once you're there, it's like, okay, cool. I can actually do work now. But the question is, how big is that project, and how long does it take you to get to that point? And then if you walk away from it, how long can you walk away from it and still be, synchronized with those gears, in time with those gears? Otherwise, you're just like, now I understand what I need to do, and let me go ahead and do it. And, no, I've been interrupted. Okay, I have to leave. And then 3 days later, you come back and you're like, what is this again? Or you find a note that's like, do it this way. Do it, whatever you do, don't do it that way. I was gonna do it that way. Why can't I do it that way? All right, whatever. And then later you'll figure out why. So writing notes to yourself, progressing the project a little bit at a time, writing little bits of code here and there, and particularly working on projects that can become components of future projects. So we're talking about like that numpad. The very idea of writing my own keyboard firmware kind of had me. I was like, well, like, am I gonna be able to do that? I mean, I know I can, but the problem is I need to be able to use it. And if I want to use it, I'm gonna need 2 keyboards, because if I screw something up, or if I have bugs somewhere that are hard to figure out, I still need a keyboard to work with. Like, I still need to actually be able to use it. And the idea of using a numpad or a macro pad as like a supplemental device, if something's wrong with it, I can continue working. So it makes a lot of sense. And then once I'm sure I've got all my key polling correct and things are quick and responsive, it's like, all right, now let's plop this into a keyboard. A keyboard that I use daily. Although I do have the female header pins on my keyboard, I'd be able to just like swap out the microcontroller, or swap in the microcontroller. If my code is bad, then it's not like, oh well, I don't get to work today. I can always reprogram it, but like, you want to be uncomfortable with the projects that you need to do. You don't want to be too comfortable not doing them, if you know what I mean. It's like, oh, it's easy to ignore this now, so I'm just going to ignore it. But if it becomes harder to ignore it, then it's like, all I really got to work on this. You know, it's not a priority until you make it a priority. Unless, of course, you force yourself to you intentionally limit yourself so that you have to work on it. Like, okay, from now on, I'm only going to do it this way, and then that way doesn't work very well, and you're like, well, I guess I'll switch back. You should disable your ability to switch back, so that when it doesn't work, you're like, well, my options are to work on this until it works right now, or not get any work done. Like, okay. Force yourself in a corner, kind of. That's just good self-management, I guess. Yeah, except, I don't know. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Whatever gets the work done. So the next question is, to get to that, how quickly can I get to a numpad? And I think I would want to, well, I have a broad idea of what I want it to be, so designing a quickie circuit board for something like that, a prototype circuit board for it, that has all the intended features of, you know, the I2C interface and the OLED, maybe a few OLEDs, who knows. It'll just be a super development board, so there will be lots of header space for things and just dropping stuff on there. And the rotary encoder and all that. Yeah, it might make sense to put together a project board. Like, I made a prototype board for this, but I didn't really start to dig into it until I had an actual circuit board for the project, because the whole thing felt flimsy and difficult to carry around. So, you know, that's logistics, I guess, and logistics matter. Logistics matter a lot. You know, it's like I was saying in the other video, it's the little things. The little things add up. All right.